Hi, my name is Dr. Paula Krebstad, and I'm a classically allopathically trained pediatrician that ventured into functional medicine about 7 years ago. I opened my practice in functional medicine in June of 2020 after I decided that that's what I want to be when I grow up, a functional medicine doctor. So I see children as a primary care pediatrician and also adults as a functional medicine consultant. So I've been using CBD for about 4 years now, 3.5 to 4 years, in topical forms and oral forms, and I've gone through several different types. And the one that I've really landed on that I really like is the Medline product, and I'll tell you why. Medline has a cannabidiol isolate, which is a concentrate of cannabidiols from hemp. It's organically grown hemp. So you want to get the active ingredient, which are the cannabidiols. Now, what they do is they act on two receptors, CB1 and CB2 receptors, and they drive down the release of something called inflammatory cytokines. We've heard a lot about cytokines in the news lately because of COVID-19, that people who get extremely sick have a release of multiple cytokines or a cytokine storm. So in our practice, the children that I see are either really healthy or they come to us because they've got comorbidities. They either have multiple autoimmune illnesses coupled with anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, insomnia, and a lot of the adults too. Autoimmune issues and the neuroimmune dysfunctions that go along with it. As I said, depression, anxiety, insomnia, suicidal ideation, OCD, where they can't get off of a thought in their mind. But what we find is that people that have pain and immune dysfunction and neurologic dysfunction, because our immune system and our neurologic systems are intimately entwined, we find that they have two commonalities. They have broken on switches, meaning that their immune system is very aggressive and it's just explosive. And then we also find, and this is where it gets bad, is where they have an inability to dial down inflammation. One genetic marker in particular, it's called CTLA4. It is it's the primary antigen presenting cell to our immune system, and if that is broken, either from both parents, so two sets are abnormal, or even just one, that greatly increases a person's risk of developing an autoimmune illness. So when we find these broken on and off switches, we usually use three things. I usually use CBD, the pure cannabidiol isolates. I use something called low-dose naltrexone, and I use something called palmitoyl ethanolamide, or PEA. There's a ton of literature in PubMed on PEA, LDN, and cannabidiols. We've heard about the cannabidiols for epilepsy, but what we use, even in little children, depending on what their genetics show, is we use the CBD products, and then we put them on palmitoyl ethanolamide and LDN, and we drive all that inflammation down. Now, the body is meant to be like Goldilocks. It just has to be just right. You don't want too much of something, you don't want too little of something. You want what's called homeostasis. So we want to dial the inflammation down, get the body back in balance. These cannabidiols have terpenes, which are volatile compounds that are derived from essential oils. It's not like an oil that you put on a paper bag and there's a greasy spot. They're volatile, so if you put them on a paper bag, they're gone within 20 minutes. But what these terpenes do, and they're derived from all different kinds of things. You can get them from hemp, you can get them from citrus products, other things. But the different terpenes act synergistically with the cannabidiols to cause homeostasis in the body and move the CBD to the receptors to lower the inflammation. So you block the cytokine release from CB1 and CB2 receptors with this cannabidiols. You stabilize something called microglial cell receptors in the brain and also in the gut. We have microglial cells, the Kupffer cells of the liver. and they release inflammatory cytokines as part of the endocannabinoid system. And then you have opioid receptors, which release cytokines from there, and that's what low-dose naltrexone binds to opioid receptors. It's an opioid antagonist, and they all work together to cool things down, in addition to fish oil and other things. But these are the main tools we have in our arsenal. So if I have an adult that is having a little trouble sleeping, I'll usually put them on the CBD 1000 Medline product with myrcene. And for an adult, you usually use 1 milliliter, which is, I believe, 33 milligrams per milliliter at night. If a person is having issues with severe panic, like panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, seizure disorders, to the point that it debilitates them during the day, you can use 2 of the products. One has the cannabidiols with limonene, but you take it in the morning because it tends to have a calming effect, and it's something you wouldn't want to just take on a day that you're having trouble. You want to use it for a while to get you in balance. Then you can use beta-caryophyllene, which is in this too, and it just tends to work on that homeostasis piece to just calm things down and get you back in balance. Now, people who have severe pain, they can use the 3,000 milligram with the limonene and the beta-caryophyllene. It works on the inflammation and the homeostasis all at the same time. So now, one of the things I really love is this. This is the Medline CBD cooling gel, and it has menthol and camphor in it. So I'll just give you an illustration. I've had a 2-level anterior neck infusion, and I also had in my cervical spine, and I also had a lumbar sacral discectomy and laminotomy. And one surgery was in 1986, and the other was in 2005. And I've dealt with a lot of pain in my life, and once I found that I could go gluten-free, dairy-free, good anti-inflammatory diet, it helped. But when I do get tense and I have pain, I can put this on and it is amazing. I also, one of my staff members have something called leg calf perthes, and they're in their mid-20s, and the next step is a hip replacement. When they came to work for me, they were using ibuprofen, got her off the ibuprofen and onto palmitoyl ethanolamide, but she uses this CBD and she's able to play soccer, and she hasn't had a hip replacement, and so she's not injuring her gut, but she's using this and it helps amazingly well.